In this video, we're going to take a look at each and every 2 threats for Marvel Crisis Protocol and give them a ranking. Hey guys, Rich from Rich Big Gaming. I hope everyone is doing fantastically well. And it has been over 2 years since we've gone through and looked at every threat level in Marvel Crisis Protocol and ranked them accordingly with a tier list. So I thought, why not churn that old content out again? But no, joining me as always, Mr. Quinn Duggan. Quinn, how the hell are you doing, sir? A bearded Quinn Duggan.
I love it here on Robert Mid Gaming.
Quinn's
Well, you know, like you changed your name to Robert. I thought I'd change my look.
Fair. Just move my camera in the middle. There we go.
Hello.
You have changed your look. You have definitely changed your look. I did see it in person the other day, and it's quite a stunning beard. You look dwarvish now with the beard. But yeah, it's fair to say, Quinn, that since the last time we did these, it's a little bit's changed with the game. Over 2 years ago, it's.
I mean, you say that we're doing the 2 threat video. I don't think we've got a new one.
Do you know, crazily enough, there isn't another 2 threat. And I think the last one on the list was still Honey Badger, which is really strange. I feel like they've had some opportunities to make 2 threats over the past 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, 2 threats do pose an interesting balance question, though, right?
They do. Yeah, they really do.
A single 2 threat, if it's capable of holding objectives, is as valuable in that regard as any other character in the game, regardless of threat, right? And I think that's something that you have to factor in when you design them. So
yeah, definitely. And that is something we'll see in at least a couple of these, won't we, where they've removed that ability for them.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, right? It makes sense. But 2 threats, Quinn, like you sort of just mentioned it there. They can be worth a lot, can't they, in terms of what they do on the board. Generally, what are you looking for in a 2 threat?
Typically it's survivability. More so than any other threat category. I think you just don't really typically care about the offensive output of a 2 threat. Like they're not typically there to go and daze characters and do damage. They are there.
They're not one shot in a Hulk, are they?
Yeah, like they're there to like hold an extract and stand on a secure and like hopefully not die in the attempt. Like that's what you want out of a 2 threat in my mind.
Yeah, and I think you've got your other pieces then, haven't you? That okay, I'm going to stop rather than having my 6 threat leader take a big hit. I'm going to have a 2 threat character take that big hit instead. So kind of in the vein of survivability, but more surviving for your other characters. And then, I mean, we've got all sorts in here, haven't we? We've got offensive output ones. We've got, I would say very support-based characters who can turn things on round 1 and things like that. So, yeah, balancing of them is hard. I think for the most part they've done a good job, but I would like to see a few more, I think. I really would like to see a few more. Not X-Men,
I mean, if
they don't
if you
need
get
any 2 threats.
One more, and you can run 10 models at 20 threat.
You can run 10 models. That'd be crazy. I mean, yeah. I'm just imagining
It'd be awful, but it'd be hilarious.
It would be hilarious. Yeah, I think you have priority. Is what you'd be saying there. Okay, let's jump over then and let's take a look at the tier list. These will change slightly for each threat level because we are going to be doing 2 all the way through to 6+. But I think because of what we want out of each threat level changes, I think therefore kind of the tier system has to change to kind of accommodate that, really, doesn't it? So let's start then. S through to D, standard Japanese tier list. We all know it. We don't need to say it, Quinn, do we, at this point? Everyone loves it, apart from
that one guy.
You know who. So S through to D. S is just going to be absolutely exceptional, right? They are a go-to 2-threat, even if it's outside of affiliation. Not every affiliation has access to a 2-threat, but they're going to be one of maybe one or two options that you go for. A tier is going to be really, really good, right? Whenever you've got your affiliation you're putting together, you choose to take this one over one of the other ones that might be deemed as better, but because they're affiliated, then they've kind of got that extra little thing going for them. B tier is going to be perfectly fine, perfectly serviceable. It's middle of the road. It's kind of where the majority of characters should sit in a game, Quinn. Would you agree? That middle B tier? Because that's, well,
Yeah.
not to
like,
steal
the
your
majority of the
game. But B is for balance, right? That's where.
Is that going to be like the theme of this, 2 year later tier list
No.
things, that you're the alphabet guy now?
I am not stealing your alphabet. No.
Mainly because you don't want to be.
I just do it. I've got too many buttons to press. I don't need to be thinking of anything else.
I don't think you know enough words that begin with those letters.
What? S, A, B, C, and D? I'd be using multiple ones. S is for super. D is for dross. C tier, they're fine. Like, they're okay. I'm not going to look across you at the table going, oh my God, why on earth have you taken that character? And then D tier is going to be really not worth taking, even if they are in affiliation. One of these other options is probably a better option than taking one, taking that one. So let's start out then, Quinn. I believe the first ever 2-threat in the game is Black Widow, aka Natasha Romanova. If you remember on her original card before it got the.
I mean, the main thing I remember about her original card is the fact that Pistol wasn't coloured in.
Pistol, I don't think it is still. Because she's never had an updated card, has she?
It is in that run of Corset. Because I have a card from a later version of the first Corset that has it coloured in. So it was the original print that had the issue. So it was
just the original print run. Right, okay. Look, she's a long move, right? So first of all, that's real good. So that's really nice. You mentioned, Quinn, you want somebody who can run up, take an objective, run back, hold it while scoring a back point. And that's kind of what she excels at, right?
That is Black Widow's entire deal. Like, she is the archetypal 2-threat in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Counter-Strike, fine. You might get lucky and you might take your opponent out if they've only got one health left. But in reality, she's probably going down to most attacks. Although, weird stat line of 3-2-4 for defense. Like, can't take a plasma gun, but don't try and get inside her mind. She is as good as Doctor.
She's got stealth and martial arts, so that too isn't as bad as it initially seems.
It's not, no. Yeah, so there is this weird little area, isn't there, between range 2 and range 3 where you want to be attacking her from, because adding blanks, even on 3 dice or even 2 dice, is still pretty good. She's never had an update, Quinn. She is as she came. What are your thoughts on Black Widow? Obviously, she is in. She's in Avengers.
A-Force, Avengers, Shield, Winter Guard.
So there is 4 affiliations that she's in. And I know for Avengers, she's my go-to 2-threat. For Winter Guard, she's my go-to 2-threat. I think she's pretty solid.
I really like Widow. Like, Widow is. I'm going to say it right now. Widow's my favourite 2-threat. I've played a lot of Widow over the years, given my several Avengers runs. And she's just good. I think my favourite memory of Widow is her staggering Dr. Norbert's Malekith 2 times in a row at York. That was fun. He wasn't happy about it.
I was going to say she can also dish out stagger as well, which is, not to be sniffed at on a two threat character.
When your 2-threat takes away an action from a 7-threat, you're up.
She also doesn't have a half bad tactics card that she can play, especially especially in a world now where there are so few sort of neutral, character agnostic tactics cards. Vertical assistance is not bad. Like the fact that she's generally doing okay on power because she's not really doing much with a turn. She might walk up and shoot someone, but more often than not, she wants to keep out of range and be as far back as possible. Spending some of that power just to move somebody up the board or back onto a point or something is pretty nice. And as a 10th card, if you were looking to put one in, it's not too bad. Do you play her much out of affiliation though, Quinn? Do you see her out of it much, or?
I don't, but there is a caveat to that, which
Go
is
ahead.
I don't play any 2-threat out of affiliation for the most part. Like they're just not a thing that I typically include in my roster building concerns. I
have to say, I often don't either. But saying that, I don't think you see her. For those people that do, I think if you're going, right, I've got my list of 9 characters, I need a 2-threat in here. I don't think she's often that one, right? I think she's excels in her own affiliations, but so yeah, where do you think, Quinn? I'll let you start out with this one, but where do you think she should sit then?
It's interesting what's on this list that are going to be better, and I think with her being the archetypal 2-threat, she kind of needs to be middle of the road B. Like she is what AMG should aspire to in terms of 2-threat design, right? And
Yeah.
I'd argue for a B+, but it's nowhere near enough to go into an A category.
I agree. Yeah, I do agree.
She's good. She's solid. She does her job.
She does a job, and she does her job well, I would say. And like I say, any character that's going to score you 2, 4, 6 points over the duration of a game, that's pretty good value from a 2-threat character. And she does have that ability because of that long move. If she, not that we like doing it, but if it's to win a game, you can just run her away into the corner of the board. I know, but you can do it. Robert
Just
Dobalina.
because you can doesn't mean you should.
Sorry, Quinn. And B is for
Black Widow.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you who's not going to be B for something. Robert Dobalina next, a.k.a. Bob, Agent of Hydra. He's a weird one, Quinn. He's really weird. Okay, he's got the thing where, he kind of never really dies, so he's always there. But
how? What do you mean he doesn't die? But how does he not die?
Because he's Bob. I don't know, by the way. I don't know. The character that nobody bought the Deadpool set for. Let's be honest.
Hey, everyone bought it for that taco truck, right?
Yeah. I mean, look. Excessive violence, fine, as a one big hit thing to do, but he's not consistent. He goes down too easily. Even in affiliation, he's not chosen as a 2-threat of choice, is he?
I have a question for you.
Far away.
Just with regard to Bob. What's the worst number of dice you can roll in an attack?
We know statistically it's 9.
Empirically, scientifically, we know that number is.
It is scientifically proven by testing by Quinn and Rich Labs. Yeah, it's terrible. It's I don't know why. 4, amazing.
Oh, 4's the best number of dice. 9 is the worst, though.
4 on a grunt. I mean,
Oh,
Yeah, he's got his one big thing he does, and then that's kind of it. It's a little bit gimmicky. He goes down too
I mean,
quickly.
it's not a little bit gimmicky. It's incredibly
It's
gimmicky.
incredibly gimmicky. I'm going to say Quinn, even if you're playing an affiliation that he's in, he's not. He's just not it. So for me,
I mean, as a long-time Hydra player, he might as well not be Hydra affiliated.
he is going to go into D tier, Quinn. I
He's
think.
gone into D tier, and like that's where I think he was always destined to go. I think that's where he was designed to be. Like, unfortunately for Mr. Deblina, like that's what AMG wanted him to be, and that's what he is.
True. D Quinn is for.
D is for don't eat the tacos.
Don't eat the tacos. Okay.
You don't want to know what's in them.
Okay, Quinn. Benjamin Poindexter next, aka Bullseye.
The man with the second worst like alter ego in Marvel.
Yeah, I hear Poindexter and I just always think of Danger Mouse. I don't. It's because it's Poindexter into the guy from it or the other one from
He's
it.
not.
But
He's not though. That's not his name.
who's Poindexter
It,
then?
it begins with the P, but his name isn't Poindexter. Even I know that. And that cartoon stopped airing before
You were born. Might have stopped being made before I was born, even. I love me some Bullseye, Quinn. Absolutely love me some Bullseye. I still believe the only character.
Penfold.
Penfold is what I'm thinking, yeah. Still the only character in the game, Quinn, I believe, that has had a threat change. Unless there's another one you can think of that's had one.
Character, yes. Time Gem got a threat change.
He's not a character.
That's why I said character, yes.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were saying character as in.
I
Yeah,
know
there
it
was
doesn't
another
happen often,
character.
but sometimes I do agree with you, Rick.
Yeah, I know, right? That's the thing that was getting me. Yeah, I love Bullseye. I think in affiliation is the two threat of choice if you're taking one. Even out of affiliation, Quinn. I've been playing him a lot with Dracula at the moment. The fact that he can guarantee to always do a damage is just so good. It's just so good. He's another one that's just a really good back point holder as well, isn't he? A bit doesn't have the long move, but a bit like Black Widow. You sit him on a back point, and he just always does work. Rarely do you do pincushion, because if you've got four power on Bullseye, then he's probably died once already. But that parting shot, and Quinn, you spoke about survivability. Sorry, I never miss. I was going to say is really good, but talking about survivability, that parting shot, meaning that if you do get lucky, and 3-3-2 is not bad, but if you do get lucky, you don't get spiked, you can just then spend that 2 power and potentially get outside of your opponent's next attack into him. Is super good. Super good.
Yeah, I mean, you can guarantee it against any range 2 attacker, right?
Yes.
Because even if they're base to base, you still get out of range.
You still get out of range. Yeah, you still get out of range. Or, at the very least, you get yourself into some cover or, into body. Not that you want a bodyguard onto Bullseye, but maybe you do because he's holding 2 objectives or something. But, yeah, he's really good. And like I say, I've played him quite a lot with a lot of the attrition-based lists that I've run. I found he's become my go-to for attrition, at least at range. There's another lady in here who I also like for murdering things. But I think he just does a little bit more than some of the other ranged characters in here than the rest of them. And Bleed, especially with what I've been playing lately with Dracula, is pretty darn good. It's your turn to rank him, though, Quinn. Where do you think he goes?
I think Bullseye goes in a very strong A. Not quite S tier, but like he's good at what he does.
He is, yeah, he is really good at what he does. It's better than the original Wolverine at what he does, which is damage. Yeah, I agree. I think that's a perfect place for him. I think you do see him outside of affiliation a little bit, but I do think there are at least two other two threats on this list that you would look at before him. I take him just because of my personal play style, and actually, Dracula's affiliation is all encompassing anyway, so it is technically in affiliation anyway, isn't it? When I play him in Dracula, Aquin is for
Ace, because that's what he's holding.
He is. It's the Ace of Spades as well. There we go. Okay, Quinn. Let's get on to some. The first of at least two mutants, I want to say, on this list.
Yeah.
I think it's two. Yeah, Gabrielle Kinney, aka Honey Badger. Good damage output. Really good damage output for a two threat, but everything that she has is tempered with the fact that she cannot score VPs. Which is quite a big thing. Let's also not forget, Quinn, that she has lost access to exceptional healing. Now, it would be a strange choice to use exceptional healing on Honey Badger, but there will be some niche scenarios where that could have been a thing that you wanted. It will have
happened at least, 20 times.
Somewhere between 3 and a million. 3 and a million. Somewhere between 3 and a million.
That's solid odds, yeah.
But she's got a couple of things going for her, Quinn, hasn't she? So she has the reverse bodyguard in Too Dangerous to Ignore, where it's you measure from the character making the attack rather than your character that's defending. But she has something called Ankle Biter, which is the thing that stops her from being able to contest, interact with, or hold objective tokens. But all other enemy characters within range 1 of her, when they are attacked by another allied character, so not herself, roll 1 less defense dice. Which is pretty good when you stack that on something like demons and they're on fire and they're rolling 1 less. Which can be really good. It can be really good. And then she's got a little bit of synergy with the Big Sis, Quinn, hasn't she? You've got Little Sis and Big Sis, where either of them get to make a move if the other one is damaged. And they're within range 3, I think, or something like that. Thoughts on Honey Badger, Quinn?
You know how we've had the whole thing about Black Widow's good because she's the archetypal 2 threat and just goes and grabs a thing and stands on a point the entire game? You know how that's the thing that Honey Badger physically cannot do? Yeah, that.
So I think for me, she can't do that. She's got some nice kit, right? So she's got, the 1 less defense die bubble. She's got Too Dangerous to Ignore, so she can stop a big attack being, going into one of your other characters. She just doesn't. I don't feel like she has enough that she can do in her turn to offset the fact that she doesn't score you points. I feel like that's
you can do with the charge, right?
Something. I don't know what it is, but just something. Maybe even
or make hamstring like a range 3 with a place on the end of it, something like that.
Yeah, I mean it's got the advance, but or even make hamstring a 6 dice attack rather than a 2.
Another 5.
Yeah, so sorry, rather than another 5 even. Because yes, it can do slow and bleed, but guess what? It needs to have actually done damage, and a 5 dice attack doesn't always go through, especially when you've got no dice manipulation. So I think she's okay for me personally, Quinn, but I do think that she just doesn't quite have enough. she's not going to take out a character, is she? For the unless you get really lucky with your dice and things, like she's not going to be able to
you're
take
attacking
somebody
another
down.
two threat.
Or you're attacking another two, or you're attacking Bob.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think for me, Quinn, I don't think she's quite down in the depths of D, because I think at least she contributes and can do something. Being able to take a hit for your, higher threat character is, is pretty good. But for me, she just doesn't do enough during her turn to
Yeah,
warrant
and
not scoring
even
VPs.
with regard to the taking a hit, that's she's only taking that hit if your opponent's got nothing they can do to circumvent it. Which I'd argue at least 8 times out of 10 they probably do.
Yeah. I feel like you could probably drop her attacks down by 1. So make it a 4 and a 4 and let her score VPs. And I think she'd be fine.
I'd drop a health on her and keep hamstring at 5. And then I think claw slash at 4.
Yeah, 4, 5,
bit
drop
of
a health on her.
4. Yeah.
Is she a 5-4 or a 5-5? She is a
5-4,
5-4, so put her to a 4-4. And I think you could have her scoring objectives, and that'd be fine. Or maybe you limit it to she can contest, but she can't interact, or something like,
Yeah,
something
if she
like
could
that.
only influence the cures, that would be pretty good from a standpoint of not making the X-Men extract jank
Even jankier.
yeah, even stupider because it's already stupid.
So I'm kind of thinking, Quinn, that she's a character with some potential, but right now probably C tier.
Yeah, C tier I think is perfectly fine for her.
And C, Quinn, is for
Claw singular.
Nice. I like it a lot. Okay, Quinn. On to our second character, who also cannot hold or contest objective tokens, Nebula. But she's a little bit different.
She's good.
Long move, which is nice. A nice mix of attacks. Shock sword assault that does stun, and a strike that does shock. Do you reckon it was a printing error and they just went, just leave it?
No,
just
I
leave
feel
it.
like this is just AMG being dumb. I don't think they ever intended it to be the other way, because I don't think it ever crossed their mind for it to be the other way.
I don't get how shocking someone stuns them. Like it's called shock. Anyway. But a nice mix of attacks, range 2 that's physical, and then a couple of range 3s that are both energy. I like her blaster pistol is a guaranteed power because you're not relying on getting the damage through to generate it. But shock sword assault, Quinn, range 3, strength 6. And you might be thinking, well, that's nothing to, write home about. Not cybernetic enhancements, assassin. So the first part, again, stops her from scoring VPs. However, additionally, this character may reroll any number of its attack dice when attacking a character that is holding or contesting an objective token. That's the same attack that Magneto has on his spender, just energy rather than physical, which arguably has less defensive tech against it.
No, builder, not spender.
Builder, that's what I said, wasn't it? Builder.
No, you spender. Did
I say spender? No, nobody uses Magneto's spender anyway. No. If you're using his spender, you're doing it wrong. So whereas, Quinn, I don't feel like Honey Badger does a lot in her turn, Nebula can do some serious work. Serious work. And is actually a threat on the board that can and often does take down some of your higher, as in like your 3s and 4 threat characters. She also gets a defensive reroll. So yes, while she's got 4 stamina on her front, she's got 5 on her back, but she does have a reroll. She's also immune to quite a lot of stuff as well. And healing as well, yeah. Her healing's weird. It happens at the
She
beginning of her
reverse
turn.
healing factor, yeah.
Yeah. Which does mean that she can not benefit from any healing factor cards, but that doesn't matter anymore.
Oh no, instant recovery doesn't work on Nebula.
And then also
Cheated.
immune to bleed, poison, and stun. Which, for me, bleed's the biggest one there. When you've only got 4 health, if one of them is ticking away every time, it's
You know what
brutal.
used to be really great about her immunities?
Go on.
Terragenesis. Terrigen
Terrigen
clouds.
yeah,
Meant that
was
she was
really
immune
good.
to Fisk and Terrigen. But they got rid of Terrigen clouds because AMG hate fun.
They do hate fun.
I miss Terrigen clouds.
It's why they've
great
restricted
crisis.
Researcher. The best
That solved
extract,
the issue they were addressing.
the best extract in the game. Because guess what you can't do, Quinn? Run away
Run off
with
into
it.
a corner with it.
I really like her, Quinn. Obviously, played her a lot in Guardians. Team her up with Gamora. They've actually now got a very good card as well, Daughters of Thanos, spending 1 power to make any attack after the other one has made an attack. I think she's solid. For me, I mentioned Bullseye in Dracula is my 2-threat of choice for damage. I actually run 2 threats in Dracula now, and I take Nebula as well. And depending on what the map is, because I like Bullseye if there's a back point to hold.
Yeah,
but if it's
back
all
point's
in the
good.
middle, if it's across the middle or something like
If
that,
you're on
then
intrusions or meteors or something, you don't really need that. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So I really like her, Quinn. I think it's your turn to place. So where do you think she sits?
I think she is in A tier alongside Bullseye. They're kind of they're not mirrors of one another, but effectively there's a dividing line between them, and it's whether you want them to score objectives or not, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
but Bullseye is Nebula if Nebula could score points. That, like, if you compare the two, those are the concessions that have to be made to enable a two to score points, right?
Yeah, and I think map setup is a key thing on that because you're never taking Bullseye on a is it a C map that runs left to right along the middle?
Across the middle, yeah.
Like you're never taking Bullseye on that. You're not running him up to a middle point and going, hey. Nebula higher or lower than Bullseye in the A tier?
By virtue of the fact that she can't score points, I think she has to go lower. But she's still very, very good. And
There's
like,
not much. There's not much in it, is there?
No, and like in her affiliated slot as well, like she's very strong.
And she's up against some really strong competition in that as well.
She's up against absolute bullshit, is what she's up against.
She also works well outside as well, though, right? Like Black Order love her, right? She works really well in Black Order.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm fine with that. I also think there are more maps where Bullseye works better than Nebula, and it can score points as well. So perfectly fine. A is for, I mean, there's an obvious one, but
Well, there's an obvious one, which is Assassin, but I'm going to go with Angry. Because she is angry a lot of the time in the
she
films.
is very, very angry indeed. Okay, Quinn. Let's get to the former golden child of two threats.
Yeah.
In Okoye, aka Okoye. She's like Rihanna. She only has the one name.
Does Okoye not have a surname?
That's what I thought, but should we check? Does Okoye?
Wait a minute. None of the Wakandans have surnames, do they? Aren't they all like mononame? Because isn't Shuri's card? Doesn't Shuri's card just say Shuri?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And apparently, Okoye is actually a family name originating in Nigeria.
Oh.
So it's actually a last name. Anyway, Quinn. Well, Okoye used to be in every list, everywhere, all the time. Like,
Okoye was the best two threat ever.
yeah,
But I don't think we've ever quite achieved the level of glory that was OG Okoye.
no, nowhere near. She's not as good now, and the reason
No.
she's not as good is she struggles to generate power. For me, is the is the biggest reason.
I'd argue a bigger impact was taking away the offensive reroll.
She did used to have an offensive reroll as well.
Four dice attacks that have a reroll attached to them actually put out a lot, and her spender was actually scary back in the day with that reroll as well.
That is fair, especially with the flurry on there as well, and the pierce as well. So yeah, so she's a bit of a blend, isn't she? Because she's got some. She's still, if you do a vibranium spear thrust and you get the wild and you get to do it again, it's still pretty decent. But her big thing was always being the bodyguard. Now, I've seen her coming back, and I've seen her pop up a little bit more in lists recently, but only in affiliation. I don't see her outside of affiliation anywhere. But I think if you're playing Wakanda, you're probably playing Okoye. If you're playing A-Force, she's probably up there as your two threat of choice.
I'd argue she's probably your second after Widow.
Yeah, maybe. Threes across the board, counts blanks, and has a reroll. She's clearly the toughest of the two threats to take down. Only 4 stamina on her front, and I think she has 4 stamina on her back as well.
4-4,
so
I believe. Yeah,
she is a 4-4, so 8 in total, which is fine. What are your thoughts on her, Quinn, now today as the game sits?
I have felt for a very long time that AMG took just a teeny bit too much away from Okoye when they nerfed her. Because she went from being everywhere, which obviously wasn't good for the health of the game. You don't want any character to be everywhere. To being, like, nowhere overnight. And, like, she's had a bit of a resurgence. Like, she still played in affiliation, mainly because Wakanda Forever is such a good tactic card, right? I think if Wakanda Forever didn't exist, you'd see her a lot less in affiliation.
Yeah.
I would have liked if she kept the power gen on the Spear Blast, but just fully lost the rerolls.
So no defensive rerolls either.
So no defensive reroll either. So you neuter her aggressively and defensively, but she still serves her role as being the bodyguard 2 threat,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would have been fine. I do feel like they did overcompensate a little bit too much on her.
And I think that's something I'm always wary of, and I think it's something AMG are wary of with regard to balance passes, is that if you overcorrect, it's a lot harder to get the same kind of noise for a correction to a correction than it is for an initial correction, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, because everyone just goes, well, she was a big problem and now it's sorted. Ha! Like, yeah. And it's like, well, no, that's not good. You don't want to take somebody from S down to D. You want to take them from an S to an A or a B. Like, you don't want to neuter them completely. I don't think she has been neutered completely. I think she definitely has a place in affiliation. She quite likes being in A-Force because of the power generation is pretty good. And then, as you say, being in Wakanda, she's kind of a staple in there as well. Is it my turn? I think it is my turn. I'm going to say, Quinn, I think, yes, she's been neutered, but for me right now, she's probably just fine. She's toitering between the bottom end of B and top end of C. I feel like she's somewhere in between Black Widow and Honey Badger. I just don't know which side of B and C it would be. What about you?
Yeah, that is pretty much exactly where I was going to place her. I think I'd err more towards B, just because she is fine, but she's like a B minus, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, Quinn, and B is for
Bald-headed demon.
bald-headed demon. Wow.
Or also known as the one good line from Black Panther 2.
Okay, Quinn. Up next is everyone's favourite little trash panda, Rocket Raccoon, aka Rocket Raccoon.
Yay.
I mean, if you were to let me pose this question to you, Quinn. If you were to ignore the left-hand side of his card with his stats, right, and you just read what he had on his card, what would you
Minimum
guess?
3 threat.
I was going to say, what would you guess his threat level
Has to
would
be.
be?
That has to be at minimum a 3 threat, depending on stat line, a 4 threat.
Yeah. There's
It's
a lot of
almost
stuff.
like Rocket has far too many rules on him for a 2 threat.
So 2/2/3, but he'll always benefit from cover. Is number one. So all of a sudden that 2/2/3 just gets so much better. Secondly, if he's within range 2 of Groot, Groot can become the target. So he's got his personal bodyguard. He's range 5.
Oh, are we not doing number 3? The most egregious thing on his card.
Or booby traps.
No, nimble.
Oh, and nimble as well.
Why does that not say character collisions? Why?
Yeah. Well, because he dodges
Because
out the
we
way of
know
the...
for a fact. No. We know for a fact that the reason he has that rule is because AMG were concerned about people throwing Groot into him, and that being an easy way to deal with Rocket. So why does it not say character collisions? Why can he dodge a building?
He can, because he can. He's very nimble. He's very nimble, Quinn.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, 2 range 5 attacks, both energy. I mean, a 7 dice attack, range 5 on a 2 threat.
7 dice with an AoE.
Oh yeah, and the AoE as well.
An AoE that pushes people.
Yep, which can then trigger booby traps. Let's also talk about, because the others didn't really have any that are prevalent. We did mention Nebula's team up card with Gamora. He's got a team up card as well, Quinn, hasn't he?
Yeah, he does.
So, Deadly Duo, pick 3 targets, make a plasma rifle attack. It is not an action. So you're rolling 15 dice for 2 power.
If AMG designed that card now, it would have the little action thing under it. I guarantee you.
It really would. It really would. And then it's got booby traps as well, Quinn, because why not? Yeah, there's a couple of things I think I would change with Rocket, and I don't think it would make him too bad. I think you can increase...
I don't think it would impact his play rate at all.
I think you can increase Hard on Enforcer to 5 power. I think for a 2 threat, that attack is worth 5 power. Like, I don't think you need to... 4 is
Still
very
not
low.
super comfortable with a 2 threat having 7 dice full stop, but sure.
And I would also make Deadly Duo an action. And I think those 2 things, you could throw in the collision thing, but I think you can only pick 2 of the 3 to change, and I think he'd be much better.
You say you can only pick 2 of the 3. If you did all 3, would you not still play him in like nearly every Guardians game?
Yeah, of course I would.
Yeah. So,
Oh yeah, by the way, because he gets rerolls under Guardians as well.
like, oh yeah, exactly. Which is why 7 dice or doing 15 dice worth of attacks is perfectly reasonable. Or he leaves those 2 rerolls on himself defensively.
Oh yeah, because he needs them.
When he's always got cover.
Well, I think we've got an idea, Quinn, of where he's going, but you are starting out with this one. Rocket Raccoon. Where does he go, Quinn?
E tier because I hate him. No, he's S tier. Stupid. Stupid tier. That's where he goes.
And S is for you can't have stupid.
Small stature.
Oh, yeah, I like it. Yeah. Another character who's never had a change, Quinn, Mr. Mortimer Toynbee. I tell you
What a great name.
The 2 threats have got some great names, haven't they? Benjamin Poindexter.
Really good, to be fair.
Benjamin Poindexter, Mortimer Toynbee. What was the other one? Robert Dobalina. Like, it's either really good or just Okoye. Like, it's... Let's also mention Quinn, and actually for Honey Badger as well. The 2 threats in Apocalypse, something I'm sure a lot of people will be playing with at the moment. Obviously, Honey Badger is Death and War, Toad is Death and Pestilence. What are your thoughts on Toad, Quinn?
He does the thing I don't like in MCP, and that makes me sad. He's all about extracts. I don't like that.
He is all about extracts. Yeah. Getting them and running away.
Like,
handing them around.
Quintessential run away into a corner character.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt.
He can run away into a corner on someone else's turn.
This is also true. This is also very true. He also has a push, which can come in quite handy just to get somebody off a point. But yeah, his big thing is slippery and prehensile tongue, being able to interact at range 2 rather than range 1, which I often forget, especially after playing Shatterpoint, that everybody is supposed to be range 1. But yeah, he is the quintessential extract play. I would say, Quinn, for a long time, Toad was the top consideration for almost anyone who wanted to run an extract play in their roster and didn't have an affiliated 2 threat, or often even if they did have an affiliated 2 threat. He's just pretty good at it, isn't he? And he's not a slouch either, right? 2 3s across the board, and then that slippery getting to move away medium.
Also, can we just address one of the other stupid things about Toad?
Go ahead.
Why has he got 5 stamina on his front side?
I know.
Why?
He's a tough Toad. He's a tough...
If he was like 4 stamina, or like, heaven forbid, 3, then like Slippery would actually be, a really interesting ability on him, because it's something that would only trigger if you fuck up, right? but with 5 stamina, it triggers basically every time you attack him.
Yeah. Well, every time you attack him,
medium move.
It's the medium. I tell you what, I would like to see change with this. Short, I think, is a thing it should be, but also away. I don't like he can move in any direction because he's also got Wall Crawler as well, and he can dish out a guaranteed Incinerate, and he can push a size 2. He's pretty good, Quinn, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is. I wouldn't mind if Slippery caused him to drop whatever he's holding.
Oh.
But he got to place it, and it was within 1 of where he starts his move.
I like that. Because he's like running away and like just dropping what
it's like he's literal, like, in every cartoon with Toad in, the moment anyone starts paying any attention to him in a fight, he absolutely shits himself and just leaves. Like, that's
but you know what happens to it? You know what happens to a Toad when they get struck by lightning, Quinn, don't you?
Same thing that happens to everyone else.
Yeah. They get
rolls 4
stunned.
dice at them and does nothing.
They get stunned. Yeah. He's very good, Quinn. He's still very good. Never had a change to his card. He's S tier, right? There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and he is a different kind of S tier to Rocket, right? Because
I would
Rocket
argue,
is S tier, but is like super obnoxious in affiliation. Toad is just S tier all the year round, right? He's like evergreen S tier.
and I would also say that Toad is not reliant on anything else. Rocket, to get the most out of him, you need Groot. If you're taking Groot, you want Deadly Duo, and that's where he shines. Whereas Toad, the opportunity cost to take Toad is so low because he's just 2. That's it. Doesn't need any cards or anything.
Yeah.
And also gives you a super, super cheap turn 1 extract play that isn't as good as an ASM or a Name or something like that. But for 2 threat, is pretty darn good. And as you say, being able to slip away if somebody does get within range and does attack you. So I think he probably goes to the top of S tier, Quinn.
By far and away, especially if you're splashing him in something like Web Warriors or anything with defensive tech built into like a leadership. Yeah.
Yeah. What I like to do is run him down with Nebula. S Quinn is for
Saliva.
Nice. I think.
Look, you could be into whatever you want to be into, dude. Like, that's your business.
Okay, Quinn. Rounding it out is Wongers, aka Wong. A character you didn't like for a long time. Have your thoughts and feelings changed on him at all?
Yes.
Okay. Do you like him less
Because
or more?
2 characters predominantly. More. Definitely more. For a start, they addressed some of the stupid things about him, which is why was he only beholden to one Stephen Vincent Strange?
Yeah, that is very true.
That was very much a product of when he was released and, where the game was, right?
Yeah,
It's very
absolutely.
early doors. 2 was like, why did he need to be 2 physical defense, right? He's Wong. He knows Kung Fu. Like,
He does.
put some respect on his name.
He trained the abomination, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. He is the Sorcerer Supreme right now.
He is the Sorcerer
still.
Supreme right now, yeah.
And generally, there are now, because R&D is finally gone, AMG a long time ago attempted to fix R&D, and they didn't, and then they got rid of it, and now it doesn't exist, it's fixed. But now Wong has like a very strong niche in terms of doing turn 1 power shenanigans. And especially in his main affiliation, who have, very recently gained 2 characters that really like having an extra power turn 1 in the form of Shang-Chi and Namor, right?
I was going to say, I was wondering then if you were meaning Convocation or Defenders, but you mean Defenders.
Yeah. Like, enabling charges turn 1 for both those characters, or, a myriad of other characters that can have a turn 1 charge, is a huge thing.
Yeah.
And he still does the thing you want from a 2 threat, which is standing on a point or holding an extract and slowly just gaining points.
Yeah, and he also the Shanty's blessing as well. With this new age of, there seems to be a lot of focus on conditions and what they can do and triggers off them and things like that. Being able to just go, yep, you don't have that anymore, is pretty good. And the fact that it's a character can only be affected once per round is nice, because if you've got 2 characters within range 3 of him that have both got a stagger, you go, I'll activate him and you don't have it and you don't have it. Turn done.
Yep.
Oh, and by the way, you can have a power as well. It is very, very good. Very good
Yeah.
indeed. And like you say, with it's not just advanced R&D that's gone away. Also, healing cards are at a premium, right? There's not many healing cards in the game now. I think other than affiliation specific, it is just patch up.
I think. Yeah. God, I miss Medpack.
Medpack was so good. So good.
Medpack field dressing, all you've got. Bring him back, AMG.
Bring him back. Well, timeline events, Quinn, they're the way forward, maybe. But it also means you need to play me with drop off as well. So
I'll take that trade. If I can do all you've got field dressing, you can have drop off, mate.
Nice. So yeah, I think and what I like about Wong is he is completely different to not only any other 2-threat, but any other character in the game. Like he
is the epitome of support, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what he's there for. And Quinn, he rolls 4 dice when he attacks. So, and if he's within 3 of within 3 of a Doctor Strange, he falls across the board.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
One can throw hands.
He can. Taking all that into consideration, Quinn, it's not that he's necessarily got better, it's that he has got better, but by virtue of the fact that other things have changed around him. Where do you think he sits?
I think he's in A tier. I don't think he's an obscene character by any means. Like, S tier is reserved for characters that need a negative change in terms of their power level. They need to be brought down. What Wong is perfectly fine as he is, but now because of how things have shifted around him with the broader game, he's gone from being like perfectly reasonable to being actively good.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's absolutely fair. And again, is another character I think that when you're building a list, you do kind of look down it, don't you, and go, okay, I don't have a 2-threat. Is there anyone who I can put in my roster here? I've got it doesn't even need to be a charge, does it? A vulture or whoever, right? Someone who's going to benefit from that extra 1 power turn 1. So yeah. So second question, Quinn, because I agree with A tier. Where does he place within A tier?
It's tricky because once again, it's a question of what you want out of a 2-threat, right? Because he compared to Bullseye and Nebula is a very different beast. Where like Bullseye and Nebula are sort of mirrors held up to one another that have a particular thing different about them that then informs the rest of their kit. Wong is just an entirely different kit.
Yeah. Completely different.
I'd argue it's almost on a scale in terms of how long a game goes. The shorter a game is, the better Wong is, because the more impact he's had turn 1.
That's fair, but this is not the turn 1 tier list, Quinn. This is...
I know. I think I'd put him above Bullseye, just because...
By the way, is the right answer, because that's exactly where I was thinking of him anyway.
Bullseye doesn't enable anything greater than himself. Wong can,
I tell you the other thing about Wong, and I think it's underestimated quite a bit about him. Turn 1, round 1, turn 1, having that activation where all you're going to do is move to the back point, it doesn't feel like a waste with Wong, because you move to the back point, you meditate, you give out a power. If you're playing with Bullseye, probably move into a back point, and if there's something there, you might spend a power and pick it up, depending on what it is. If it's a hammer, you're probably waiting for somebody else to put it on. And it feels like you're not quite getting everything out of him. Whereas with Wong, that's perfect, right? So you get to do that as your first activation. And then it's like balls back in your court. You now need to make the decision whether you're going to move up and commit to something.
Having a
or...
waste activation is very valuable,
Yeah.
especially like with the fact that defenders have two of the three long move medium bases in the game.
Yeah.
And can go first activation. I'm striking the mid line, coming back to safety. You're already putting the onus on your opponent of going. You now need to go get the other extract because otherwise there's no longer parity.
Yep.
And then after that, you can go, yeah, I'm forcing your hand again by doing a nothing Wong activation.
Well, not even that, even if
it's...
Anyway. Yeah, even if it's something like Mystic Portals down the middle, right? Or not Mystic Portals, Books. You walk up, take the middle one, come back. Then it's your opponent's turn. Okay, they might do a waste activation, but then you do your waste activation, and it's like, what are you going to do now? Because you're already a VP behind. And are you going to commit to the middle first so that somebody else can walk up and attack them and do stuff? Like, yeah, I think he brings a lot to the game without really doing a huge amount of like big comic booky things and attacks and things like that in his turn. So yeah, I do like him. But there we go, Quinn. I feel like that's pretty fair in terms of where everyone's sat.
I mean, you didn't ask me for the alphabet for Wong, so screw me,
I
guess.
What is A is for?
Actual Sorcerer Supreme.
Actual Sorcerer Supreme. You can't just put the word actual before.
Actually?
is actually the right answer. But yeah, no, I think it's pretty solid, Quinn. I think, again, I feel like there's some characters that they've released of late that could have been two threats, and I kind of would have liked them to be. Shocker was one that I thought maybe had the potential to be a two-threat character. It could have been, but then do you want another two-threat that doesn't score points? You know, because he's a bit like a honey badger, isn't he, with his aura? It's just around offensive dice rather than defensive dice that he stops. But yeah, I would like to see some more two threats, because there's plenty of choice, plenty of options in the Marvel universe to choose from. But yeah, there we go, guys. Let us know what you think. As you can probably imagine, this is going to be the first in a series. The three threats, at the very least, will probably be broken down into two videos. Nobody needs a 2-hour video going through.
It's also been the year of the fourth threat, right? It might be that fours need to be
It might be that fours need breaking down a little bit more as well. Yeah, they might need breaking down into two. But let us know what you think down in the comment section below. Have we done you a disservice? Do you really like Bob? But then ask yourself,
so, keep your opinions to yourself.
Do you really like Bob? So yeah, let us know what you think down in the comment section below. Want to give a big shout out to all of our Patreon and YouTube members. Thank you so much for your support. It really does help with the continuation and the running of the channel. And if you do want to support us, you can do so from as little as £1 a month. There's a link down in the description below, or you can just press the join button. Big shout out to Leodis Games. We just had a great event. A team Shatterpoint event there a couple of weekends back, and we are planning a Team Marvel event as well, so keep an eye out for that if you want to come to Leodis for a 3-man team event. Check out the Discord. We've just started our October Crisis event. We're doing one in November as well, and we're also running Shatterpoint events, and Discord's just the best place to see those notifications when it comes through. And as always, guys, it leaves me just enough time to say stay well, keep safe, and until next time, bye for now.
Nerf Rocket AMG.